Top 10 Fantasy TV Series of the Last Decade. Fantasy has always been right up my alley. From sweeping high fantasy stories set in wondrous worlds filled with dragons and battles, to urban fantasy with magic creeping through the crevices of what we would consider the real world, and everything in between, of course. If you're also craving some good old-fashioned escapism to the tune of otherworldly magic and characters, then this is the list for you. -10 of the best fantasy TV shows ever put to screen, ranked by yours truly. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for future interesting videos. 1. Once Upon a Time, 2011 to 2018. Once Upon a Time is an absolutely wild ride, but one that I feel can't be missing from a list like this. The story, after all, is set in the fictional main town of Storybrooke, where pretty much all of the inhabitants are fairy tale characters sent to live in the real world due to a spell launched by the evil queen from Snow White. And both, of course, are actually living in the same town where our main character Emma moves to. Emma, who just so happens to be the daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming, and the savior who can break the curse. Once Upon a Time is a truly fun watch filled with atrocious CGI, pretty good costumes, and especially incredible family trees that connect all the characters from the world's most famous fairy tales in the most peculiar of ways. Rumpelstiltskin's father is who? 2. The Witcher 2019. Ongoing. Based on the book series of the same name by Polish-authored Andrzej Sapkowski, which inspired a very popular video game franchise before Netflix took it up as a live-action series, The Witcher follows the adventures of the titular Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, played by Henry Cavill and soon to be replaced by Liam Hemsworth. Witchers are magically enhanced monster hunters, and Geralt travels the lands of the high fantasy world in which he lives doing just that, until he comes across the sorceress Jennifer Vengerberg, Anya Chalotra, and Ciri, the crown princess of the destroyed kingdom of Sintra, Friat Allen, who's bound to him by destiny. 3. Merlin, 2008-2012. This is such a trip down memory lane for me and all the OG Tumblr girlies. You know who you are and you know I'm right, because Merthyr was right up there with the other big ships too, holding up our fandoms. It still is, to be honest. And that's because BBC's Merlin managed to make the relationship between the young wizard Merlin, Colin Morgan, and the boisterous prince, then King, Arthur, Bradley James, one for the ages. All the characters you know and love from Arthurian legends are here, from Katie McGrath's Morgana to Angel Colby's Guinevere, Anthony Head's Other Pendragon, and Santiago Cabrera's Sir Lancelot. Merlin stirs up some very fond memories for me, even if those include sobbing my eyes out through the entire Christmas holidays of 2012 after The Diamond of the Day aired. 4. A Discovery of Witches, 2018-2022. Based on yet another book series, the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness, A Discovery of Witches is exactly the type of urban fantasy to get into if you love all the darker shades of academia. It stars Teresa Palmer and Matthew Good as Diana Bishop and Matthew Claremont, an incredibly powerful witch and very old vampire respectively. The series follows the pair from their first meeting in the halls of the University of Oxford through their adventures in a dangerous magical world, as well as backwards and forwards in time, and their passionate love story, of course. The atmosphere and cinematography of A Discovery of Witches are as immaculate as they come, as is the chemistry between the main characters. If one ignores the usual age difference that happens whenever a vampire is involved, though its storyline could be considered very typical for its genre. 5. Supernatural 2005-2022. Another one for the history books, and one that will make everyone who hung around Tumblr all the way back in the early 2010s zoom out and stare into the distance as Carry On My Wayward Son starts playing in their head. Supernatural probably needs no introduction, considering how long it ran, but I also find describing its fandom experience very complicated. You kind of needed to be there to really get it. At its core, the story of Supernatural is very simple. Two brothers, Dean and Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, are raised as monster hunters by their less than optimal father John Jeffrey Dean Morgan. The first seasons of the show are all part of the same wider narrative arc, which leads the brothers to become entangled with hell, heaven, and their inhabitants, including the angel Castiel, Nisha Collins. The rest is quite literally history, and also, as Urban Dictionary would put it, the greatest love story ever told. 6. American Gods, 2017-2021. American Gods was developed by Brian Fuller and Michael Green and is based on the novel of the same name by Neil Gaiman. a household name when it comes to fantasy stories that blur the lines between the real world and the supernatural ones. This story in particular follows Shadow Moon, played by Ricky Whittle, who becomes entangled in a global-scale conflict between the old gods, think the Norse and Egyptian and Celtic gods, and the new gods, the embodiment of technology and globalization. American Gods did lose some of its punch as the seasons progressed and lost some of the shine it had during its first episodes. Still, the concept that drives the entire story is a brilliant one and remains incredibly enjoyable, as are the performances from everyone involved. Ian McShane as Mr. Wednesday and Orlando Jones as Mr. Nancy, you really are everything to me. 7. The Rings of Power 2022. Ongoing. The Rings of Power is undoubtedly one of the most infamous titles on this list. Set within the larger world created by J.R.R. Tolkien, already the subject of 2 cinematic trilogies, one of which is arguably one of the greatest trilogies ever made. I will not take constructive criticism on this. The Return of the King is one of the best movies to ever be put to the silver screen. The Rings of Power takes things back to some thousands of years and convert the event of the Second Age of Middle-earth, before any talk of hobbits and riddles in the dark. Incredibly controversial and a matter of heated discussions among fans ever since it was announced, it's still impossible to deny that The Rings of Power is visually stunning from start to finish. And with a beautiful score, something that I believe is paramount when it comes to entering the right fantasy mindset. 8. Arcane 2021, present. Animation and fantasy are an extremely good combo, and Arcane is definitely proof of that. Filled with steampunk influences and set in the world of the League of Legends game, the story follows sisters Vine and Jinx, voiced by actresses Haley Steinfeld and Ella Purnell, respectively, as they navigate the rising conflict brewing in the city of Piltover and its dark underbelly of Zaun. The show has received praise left and right both for its animation and for its world-building, so much so that it became the first streaming series to win the Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program. It's obviously going to mean a lot more to viewers who are already familiar with the League of Legends game, but it still holds its own even for someone who has no idea about any of its world-building. And that's truly one of the great challenges in fantasy adaptations, one that Arcane conquers beautifully. 9. The Sandman 2022, ongoing. Another peak Neil Gaiman story, The Sandman is the adaptation of the comic books he wrote between 1989 and 1996 for DC Comics. The protagonist is Morpheus, the titular Sandman, the personification of dreams who escapes from a century of imprisonment at the hand of a human occultist and sets out to restore order in his realm of the dreaming. That includes chasing a runaway nightmare, engaging in a battle of wits with Lucifer, and evading the schemes of one of his siblings, Desire. The Sandman is brilliant, each episode charmingly unique and addictive in a way that only something out of Neil Gaiman's mind can be. At this point, the ranking really becomes a question of which story I enjoy more, because I like them all so much to begin with. 10. Ragnarok 2020 to 2023. The 3 seasons of this Norwegian series are a reimagining of Norse mythology and the events of Ragnarok, the death and rebirth of the entire world. The story starts when teenage brothers Magd and Loritz move back with their mother to her hometown, the fictional Edda, which is a not-so-thinly veiled callback to the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, the 2 texts that are the main sources of our knowledge of Norse mythology. If you enjoyed from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. Thanks for watching.